Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Savage Grind Podcast, dropping content for you every week. Please, if you're not liked and subscribed yet, please stop. Go do so now. Make sure you're liking, subscribing the page. Also, go follow us on TikTok. We're doing a huge giveaway on TikTok. Right now, for all my peeps that are on there, we're going to give you a copy of our book, From Average to Savage, and a planner to help you get your life together. But man, I got a very, very, very special guest here today, my man, Justin. I'm super humbled you came out to visit us this week. I'm really, really happy you're here. I wanted to really talk about something that I know is a very big problem that all of us go through as entrepreneurs, and in kind of life in general. We've all established and felt some pain and failure, right? And all right, Justin, I know you got a YouTube episode right now called Confessions of a Contractor, and really emphasizing the failures that you went through and how you learned from them and pivoted from them, which is like super, super cool, because like not a lot of people are willing to talk about where they went wrong. You did a whole documentary on that, which I think is super dope, and where you're showing where you have failed and how you learned from it and how we can learn from it as contractors in business now. So can you tell us a little bit about that and where that idea came from to even do and let everybody know about it?
Yeah, well, for me, failures is an interesting thing, right? It's like, it's a point of view.
Right.
So externally, if someone's looking in on what you're doing, they oftentimes will label whatever outcome you had as a failure, okay? For me, it's not a failure. For me, I got to a certain point of a process, or I got to a certain point where I didn't achieve a goal, and I have to fucking figure it out, right? So then what I do is I'll try to figure out what was the method that got me there. What was the reason why I didn't achieve X, Y, and Z? So oftentimes, I thought it was someone's fault or some exterior thing's fault. And if you really look closely at anything we're trying to achieve in life and business, usually it's a process.
Right.
Right. So for me, failure doesn't technically exist. The only time failure exists is if I quit.
Right.
Right. That's the only real failure in life, is you quit.
Or I've seen like people blame others, right? So like it's always like, oh no, yeah, this happened because XYZ didn't do that. Especially in construction, there's so many moving parts. There's so many facets that go into building a roof or building someone's deck or whatever. There's like a lot of, and it's very easy to pass the blame on the contractor, the office, this and that. And that's where I see where people don't evolve through their failures, right? Would you agree with that?
I would. Yeah. So like for Able Restoration, if we look at that as a failure, if we're going to label that as a failure, that's putting that in context, right? Because what was some of our goals? Some of our goals were to become one of the biggest contractors in the country, which we did.
Yeah.
Okay. Some of our goals were to take salesmen brand new into the industry, introduce them to the concept of our industry, and help them achieve certain goals, reach financial statuses, which we did, right? So if we failed in one area, meaning sustainability.
Right.
We couldn't create a process that early on, based on my level of leadership, that could create a sustainable business. Okay. So we failed, and I'll own that. I'm fine with that. Right. That's on me. The problem with pointing and blaming other people for stuff is that you never get to the point where you can learn.
Right.
If I'm blaming X, Y, and Z for why something failed, I'm missing out on the treasure. Because every failure, every huge mistake, or every dead end that you hit, at the end of it, what you don't know is there's a diamond there. That diamond is gonna change your life drastically. Maybe not drastically, maybe 10%. Remember what I told you?
Right.
10%. It's gonna help me 10%. So
and also what we talked about earlier is the law of the lid, right? So like you got to that point and you're going to be stuck at that point because your level of leadership hasn't surpassed that, right? And then using those like shortcomings to learn from it and develop from it and go pivot, like how also you talked about, and going on to your next venture, which you're super ultra successful in that. Maybe not going the traditional route of like the big sales force, right? But you found some new successes. I know you have a new video you're gonna drop on YouTube. We want to talk about what you're doing with that a little bit.
Yeah. So the next one is called The Calm Before the Storm.
I love that name. That's super cool.
It's like a historical look at the industry as a whole. I mean, not just the storm restoration industry, it's also like the insurance industry. Because if you ask nine out of 10 guys in the industry, when did insurance start? Right. Not just our game, right? Which no one really knows. Right. When did insurance, the actual business, start?
Probably in the first beginning of the century.
1666, London fires. That's when the birth of the insurance companies came. And then the late 1700s is when it hit America, and Ben Franklin is the one that popularized it, right? So there's all this cool little data. But actually, insurance has been around since 3000 BC. So the first form of actual insurance contracts was originally called batometry contracts. Batometry contracts. So like the old school travelers that would go on their ships to trade goods, right, they would have like a third party merchant and have a batometry contract. And so essentially he would pay that guy, and that guy would say, hey, we'll cover you. They didn't call it insurance at the time.
In case the ship didn't make it back to shore.
They'd be covered.
Right.
Yeah, so that was a form of insurance.
I remember reading about this somewhere. I can't remember where, but that's dope. You're getting history lessons here at the Savage Grind Podcast. That's dope. And to see like it's been around forever and how it's evolved into this business model now where people are making millions upon millions of dollars successfully doing it right and learning and growing, and those failing from it and not growing and going out of business. Because let's face it, like I see roofing as one of the number one companies that kind of fail at business. Why do you think that is, and why is that happening? Your opinion, why it's been happening so readily, like so often you hear about it?
Well, I can tell you from us why we failed, if you classify that as a failure, right? Like the reason why we failed is we didn't understand certain elements of the business. So meaning, especially on the financial side, we didn't understand how to safeguard our business when we ran into a financial deficit. And we didn't understand that when we have a financial deficit, that adding more jobs to our business
was not helping it.
Is actually a detriment. Yeah. Because as a salesman, what's the solution to your problems?
Yeah.
Sell
more.
Right? But as a business owner, if you're taking on projects that actually has a cost associated with it, and that's going to put you in the negative, I didn't understand that. Right. So looking back on it, I wish I would have dropped my ego and just asked for guidance from the very beginning. And I did kind of a little bit, but I wish I would have really found that guy that I could have not relied on, but asked for advice when shit happened.
So like, what's some tangible advice for someone that's in business right now that they can utilize to kind of, they maybe see that cash flow problem, they see that their processes are not maybe all there. What's something that they could do, maybe some of our viewers or some of, like, because we do have a big contractor audience, and what can they do? Like, because it's a problem, right? Just the business in general, roofing, like it's a very blue collar industry. We got a lot of guys that some of them come from construction or not, but once they taste the money, their egos kind of get inflated and they don't like to ask for help, bro. Even if their business is at the verge of collapsing, that is like the last thing they want to do is admit that they have a weakness within their business.
Well, it's interesting because I think that change is coming to a degree that we've never seen before. I think our industry is headed for a big consolidation. Yeah. These same things that we're talking about, like issues, cash flow, processes, these are considered inefficiencies in businesses. Right. These third-party private equity firms are coming in now, and they're offering solutions to these inefficiencies, and they're rolling companies up, right? So this wasn't happening to the degree it is now back in 2015, 16. So one, that's present. Two, I think if a company has issues, one of the biggest blind spots is companies don't understand how severe their issues are at the moment. Okay, so what I mean by that is usually there's not a big thing that brings down a company.
Right.
It's a bunch of little things. And those little things are like seeds. And at first, when you notice the issue, in contrast to all the other issues, or all companies have issues, right? Some significant, less, but they're all there. So unless it's a significant issue, oftentimes business owners will kind of push it to the side, right? So they push it to the side thinking it's not going to develop into something big. But as the days and weeks go by, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And then you have a whole host of issues when it's almost impossible to overcome. So what I would suggest, I mean, what helped us, and just I see it helps a lot of people, is to take a look at those issues on a weekly basis and have a commitment to have them resolved within 90 days. There's that statistic I read. If businesses don't resolve at least at minimum 90% of their outstanding issues within 7 business days, at some point that company will go under.
Wow. Because it's just going to keep compounding and compounding and compounding. Even as micro as the issue may be, not resolving it in a quick, efficient manner is going to eventually lend to detriment of that business.
And also, too, I think it's important to look at these issues and understand, is this an issue or is this a byproduct of a root problem? Okay, so
what does that mean?
So what I mean is, like, let's say, for example, I have a salesman that is out in the field, and he's only signed 1 job this week.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
We all got those.
Yeah, it happens. But if you have that one guy out there, now, if you get when you first look at it, you're thinking to yourself, man, this guy's not working. Mm-hmm. Okay. If you add context to it, and you say, okay, this guy has been with us for 30 days.
Right.
He's only sold 1 job this last week. Well, how many doors did he actually knock?
Right.
Okay, so the guy's knocked 500. Let's just say this guy knocked 500 doors. That data, in contrast to factual data, let's say he only knocked 10 doors. The way you look at that problem is going to be significantly different. How you handle that problem is going to be significantly different based on that data. So one of the issues is sometimes when we look at issues, we don't even know what the root problem is. So let's say you take care of the issue, but you don't recognize the root problem. That root problem is just going to manifest itself continuously in different versions, and you're going to constantly be trying to solve symptoms while the root problem just continues to manifest itself. So that's what I realize is just trying to figure out what the root problem is.
Yeah, and I think right now it's even easier to kind of see that stuff with stuff like Spotio, Sales Rabbit, capturing the data of what your salespeople are doing and figuring that out. Like, dude, you knocked 500 doors, which is a phenomenal work ethic to knock that many doors, right? And it's not his work ethic. The person's got the habits to go out and get on the doors. Mm-hmm. He just needs more training as far as how his pitch is, his close. Maybe he's just not, his confidence is not there. And honing that's one easy fix that you can do internally with management and training.
Yeah, because caveat to that is, it's his first 30 days. Where's his manager? Because technically, depending on the processes that you have in place for your company, if your process is the sales manager is the one responsible for the development of the salesman within the first 30 days, well, what's the issue? It's going to be the sales manager, right? So the sales manager needs to be looked at. So I think guys just need to spend more time on looking at the issues, identifying the root problem, discovering a solution, and then implementing that as soon as possible.
So associating, rolling this all back around to little failures within your business and like just figuring that out, what would you say is one big thing that owners and upper management should be doing right now in their business?
Well, how about this? I know one thing that they should be doing that very few are doing. Very few actually have a process. Right. So, well, everyone has a process. I mean, otherwise they wouldn't have a sustainable business for more than 6 months. Okay. Right. But most companies that I run into don't have a written out process. Right. So what happens is the process is committed verbally, and then over the course of days and weeks and months, as you run into issues and identify it's the process, how do you change it? You change it verbally.
Right.
So then it has to be like communicated like the cell phone game or the phone game, right? I'll communicate it to you, you communicate to him. By the time it gets to the 5th or 6th person, it's not that same process. And so then you get dysfunction amongst the community, and they're like, hey, you didn't follow the process. But the guy's like, I did what I was told. Right. And so you can't ever pinpoint where it went off. You just need a good process. I think a lot of companies are not focused on the process. And I think that's one of the reasons they can't scale.
Yeah. And that's really interesting how you say that, because most of us get into this because we were the top producer at another company, and then we were like, oh, I can open my own business because I sold, 2 million, 3 million at this company. I want to go out and start my own thing, not realizing that there's something that has to be literally written out and followed by everybody within the organization and have that buy-in, right? Which is crucial, because they have to help develop that process, because they got to agree on it, right? And having them agree on it and buy into it is gonna make it easier for you from when they come in and buy in and exit the company when necessary, because firing becomes easier because they didn't follow the 1, 2, 3 step process that you wrote out, which is super, super cool. And I love that. So right now, what's next for you? I know you're doing a lot of big things, and maybe you want to share that with our audience, or maybe where they can go find you and go check out your new documentary that you're putting out. Where can they find you if they want to check that out?
It'll come out in a few months. We're still in the production end of things, but I don't even know where we're going to release it.
No,
I don't even know yet.
So
I'm not even sure if we're going to monetize it, if we're just going to share it with people, or I'm not sure exactly yet.
So I'll find out where it's going to be at. I know I'll put it on my YouTube channel and we'll help you share it, and we'll blast it out there. And I just really want to thank you for coming down and joining us here at our podcast, coming down to Chi-Town. I know it's been a little bit chilly this week, but overall, what do you like, Chi-Town or what?
I like Chi-Town. A little chilly, but I like it. I like it.
You heard it here from my man, Justin. He likes Chicago. I hope you like this episode. Like I said earlier, go like and subscribe to the podcast. Thank you for tuning in. We're going to come back next week with some more content for you. And like how I always say, everybody, don't be average. Go be savage today. Deuces.
Deuces.
This is